time we were both here was in 2011, I think, whenever we were playing in the fall league. And at that time, we weren't really the highest on the totem pole there. Although for our teams we were, but there were guys there throwing 100 miles an hour, and it was me and you closing out games. Yeah. Guys that were throwing low to mid 90s. What do you attribute that to? Like, what do you attribute that mindset that allowed guys like me and you to be in a position to high leverage situations over guys that probably had more talent than us?
I think it's just the competitive nature, right? I think some guys have it. I think some guys don't. I think some guys, like, no matter how talented they are, for some reason, like when they get into the situations, like that competitive mindset sometimes can either like overtake them or you take full advantage of it. Like, I've always felt comfortable in those situations, probably the same way you did. You know what I mean? Like, I'd rather have the ball in a one-run game in the ninth than a one-run game in the sixth. You know what I mean? It's just, for me, I don't know what it is. Like, throughout my career, throughout minor leagues, whatever, I just felt more comfortable in that ninth inning or the eighth inning or whatever when the game's tight, opposed to any other situation. I'm sure it's probably the same for you.
100%. Like, I think that started from a young age for me. Like, I think it took a extreme situation like that to get the best out of me, because I felt like I needed that stimulation, and some guys can't really handle that. So is it opposite for you? So like, if you're in a game where you're winning by 5 or 6 runs or losing by 5 or 6 runs, getting some work in, how do you go through those situations?
It's tough. I still don't think I'm good at that, because like, you kind of got to get yourself going a little bit more, and I don't like have to, like, for me, like, having to turn up the knob for myself. Like, I feel like that's hard. Like, when you run into situations where the knob's already turned up, it's like, now all I gotta do is focus on, like, I just gotta relax. Yeah. I just gotta relax and go out there, and everything else is gonna take care of itself. Whereas like the opposed, it's like, all right, I gotta turn this up, but I can't get too cranked up because I still gotta relax and be able to do my job. So like, I always found like those games were tricky, and it's like a happy medium, and you just gotta kind of go out there and try and get into the same mindset. And like, I'm not trying to give up runs, whether it's we're up 5, down 5, whatever. Like, I don't want to give up runs. So you got to try and, like, it's still hard for me to kind of find that happy medium and that same mindset going into those games.
One of the things I think that we can relate to a lot of other people is that I think we had a similar come up where we were kind of counted out maybe at some time. Whenever I was a little kid, people looked at me and were like, oh, look at this little guy. So I was always counted out. So do you think that plays into some of like being able to be in these like high leverage situations and just completely like zone in and be like, I don't care. Like, this is normal for me. This is what I'm used to.
Yeah, because I think when you get into pro ball, like, especially me, like, signing that non-drafted free agent deal, it's like, I got into pro ball and like, I was aware of who was a first rounder, who was a top pick, and like, when I was facing these guys, like, it's like, all right, let's like locked in, and I could already get into that mindset, regardless of score or whatever. Is more about who I was facing, like proving myself and all these things. So it was like, that kind of triggered the mind from the get-go, you know what I mean? And so it's always conscious of that. So when you got into these big situations, it's like, all right, I was kind of already doing this for a while. Like, this is no different than the way I like to pitch anyway. So, I found like it was all kind of, I won't say easier, but like, that's just the situations that got me comfortable.
Right. What about the times whenever you are maybe a little bit too jacked up?
Yeah.
When you have too much energy or you're trying to do something more, what are the things that you do to level yourself out to then pitch to your abilities instead of trying to do more?
Used to be like, you had all the time in the world in the past, right?
Yeah.
So like, I always had a spot in the outfield or something, like I would pick out in different stadiums that I would just stare at for like 2 or 3 seconds to kind of zone out and like try and get your mind completely away from what you're doing. And then you come back to it and it's like, all right, that's kind of like a reset, I guess. Right. So I haven't really like, I've been toying with things like, you know what I mean, to try and quicken it up. But like, if you feel rushed, then you're kind of working against it too. So that's something I'm still trying to work through with the new clock and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think like, if I would like some advice, like I think I would try to implement that in my training, and then like when I'm working out here, I would try to like always keep a rush tempo at some point, but also still, one of the keys for me was be where your feet are. Hear the crunching of your feet, because if you're there, you're not worried about the last pitch or the error or the score or the situation or whatever. Be where your feet are, and then practicing that within your workouts so that you're training for those situations. Because again, one of the things I used to like to do is like, all right, take a little walk around the mound, look around, say, realize that, hey, this is just a game, like calm your nerves, whatever it is. But you no longer have that luxury anymore, right? So yeah, there's certain things I think that has to be implemented like during like spring training and practice and like off the field things. But man, I'm super happy for you. You're coming up on 10 years, and to see your journey, to see someone I relate to watch the come up. You're an all-star. Like, it's amazing to see, and I'm looking forward to seeing you pitch this year and hopefully many more years, man.
I appreciate it, AJ.
Yes, sir.
It, buddy.
Thanks for doing this, man.
Yeah, always.
Yes, sir.